My wife may have cheated with my coworker. Hello everybody. I can't believe I'm here, but I am. And I'm afraid she's doing something behind my back. It's too embarrassing and messed up to tell my friends and family. My coworker may have smacked my wife, and it appears to be true. In 2014, I am 36, met my wife, F32, in a local mall. When I saw my wife, Gabby, she was in line at the food court. We were trying to get into another restaurant, but the queue was too lengthy. I noticed her at the front of the queue at the restaurant where she was. And when she glanced at me, I was stunned. She laughed and said she wasn't waiting for meals. Gabby stated she was waiting for her cousin to leave. I was overjoyed that she spoke to me because I was speechless. So I was able to be funny and we talked as she waited for her cousin. I knew I was making an excellent first impression on her. I offered to buy her dinner while she waited for her cousin, but she requested a strawberry lemonade instead. We talked more after I bought it, and I was still flirty and witty with her. I asked her cousin for her number before they left. Then I did my best to woo her. We made it official after a few dates, events, and hanging out with her and her friends. In 2017, Gabby and I married. We had our own family after 3 kids. We became terrific parents after having 2 daughters and a son. We gave up going to clubs and concerts, but we still found time to have fun. Our nightlife was definitely halved. I felt really lucky to have Gabby as my wife. My buddies even complimented me on her beauty. Gabby is Cuban and looks like a mix of Wonder Woman and Salma Hayek. She has a ponytail, tattoos on her arms, and is curvy. You'd recognize her by her constant ponytail, especially in her selfies. We do well since I work in maintenance. Gabby and her sister are successful interior decorators. Gabby joined the team after seeing her sister's success. I've been here 7 years and enjoy it. But I never expected someone to find my wife. It started on Wednesday. Let's call the guy who works in shipping Daryl. Daryl and I are acquaintances who talk over lunch. I think I saw him the most when we were shooting dice in the job parking lot. We exclusively chat about basketball at lunch. My car had brake troubles one weekend, so my wife drove me there and picked me up. The first time she arrived 30 minutes early and had to wait for me. When I got out, I noticed her laughing and talking to Daryl and a girl named Brianna. We left after introducing her as my wife. Looking back, I believe it was the start. I believe Daryl got to my wife that week when she had to pick me up from work. After work, I'd see my wife with Daryl and Brianna. They'd be in Daryl's office listening to rap music on his Beats by Dre connected to his phone. Gabby said she enjoyed talking to Brianna and working with her and Daryl. I knew Brianna and Daryl were good friends because they lived near together, so seeing him around them didn't upset me. Gabby would come to my job to talk to Daryl and Brianna. I didn't mind Brianna calling or visiting because she was Gabby's buddy. I didn't notice Daryl talking to Gabby. I attempted to keep my emotions in check even when I observed Gabby and Daryl talking without Brianna there. We'd be debating in Spanish every day if we jumped to conclusions. My fears of my wife cheating on me arose last Wednesday. I was saying farewell to a coworker one day. He was on the phone and said goodbye. I paused when he stated it was me saying goodbye to the person on the other line, as if they knew me. When I inquired who he was referring about, he merely smiled and answered an old coworker. Wait, he said, this individual needed to speak to me quickly. Giving me the phone made me joyful. Since I didn't know why my old coworker Tyrell left, we caught up. Tyrell said he moved to Atlanta because his brother promised him a job in a warehouse. Then he rubbed it in by claiming he now makes more than us. After catching up, he stated he needed my phone number to talk to me about something. Sure, I said, and he asked for my Facebook number. I said okay and returned his phone. He dialed the number he was sent. I'm still not to my car. Inquiring about his situation. I was in my car, I said. He said not to drive yet since he had something to say. This seemed quite odd, so I asked him what he meant. He said I can't tell anyone, and I agreed. Surprisingly, he asked if Gabby still came to work. I responded yes, and he inquired if Daryl was still talking to Gabby, which made me nervous. He said he didn't want to cause a fight, but Daryl hit my wife. He said he didn't care because he didn't work with us anymore. This gave me a shiver down my spine. When I questioned how he knew, he stated he had seen them. Tyrell was a floor leader, therefore he went between departments. He stated he always observed Gabby and Daryl talking while strolling. And he told us he wanted to hit Gabby. And he claimed he'd always mention her, but Tyrell said he'd meet them almost an hour before lunch. He said he saw her talk to Brianna, but mostly to Daryl. Tyrell added that even though he appeared to be flirting with Gabby, she didn't know until she visited him on Saturdays when Daryl's department had to work overtime. This surprised me because I rarely worked overtime. Why was she there? When I asked Tyrell if she was there on Saturdays, he answered yes. He stated he thought Daryl had smacked her when she came over one Saturday. Saturdays were free days, so Daryl would play music on his Beats by Dre speaker. Tyrell was unconcerned by Gabby's presence. But he returned later and stated he heard loud Spanish music. Tyrell said Gabby and the guys were getting sexual. He stated Daryl twerked Gabby for him. My wife wasn't exactly bootylicious, but she had enough to twerk. Tyrell said this and I froze. I inquired whether he was sure, and he answered he was. In her leggings, he stated she bounced it for him in front of everyone. He said she didn't try to stop Daryl. Then he stated she just laughed and twerked for him. He remarked she appeared to be entering a contest. I couldn't believe Tyrell's words. He apologized and I must protect my wife. He added Brianna to the list. I thanked her and hung up quickly. This humiliated me greatly. My mind was racing as I drove back home. Worse, Gabby twerked for Daryl 7 or 8 months ago. Who knows what's happened since? She did more than twerk at his apartment. I had to ask Gabby what was going on and trust her answers. On our way back home, my wife called her mother. I asked her whether she met Brianna today, and she answered yes. When I asked her if she saw Daryl, she responded no. That they looked like the Three Musketeers astonished me. She said Daryl isn't around often and it's just her and Brianna, which I know is a lie. My wife then walked past me into the kitchen to get her phone and text her buddies. I couldn't believe my wife lied to me about Daryl. Even I noticed how much he was around her, and it wounded me. Then all I could do was watch her make dinner for our kids and be unhappy. I'm depressed and my head made me rage and cry. Now I need confirmation that something is afoot. But it'll be difficult because it affects co-workers. I don't want to lose my work, and what Tyrell said isn't good enough for divorce. Besides, they'll both lie and deny it. Also, my wife could pretend she was bringing Daryl lunch, and the security guy would let her in. My wife must have cheated on me. That was 8 months ago when my wife discreetly met Daryl and twerked for him. So much time had passed, and who knows what has transpired since. If everything is real, I need to know how to get actual proof. No one wants to lose their job, and I know her family will attack me if I don't have proof. Update. I'd want to thank everyone who has told me how to find out what's going on with my wife and her coworker. It helped me because I couldn't go to family or friends for fear of disgrace. Everything I've noticed is becoming worse. Also, my coworker may have smacked my wife. To clarify, my wife Gabby had to pick me up from work because my car's brakes required replacing. Gabby made friends with Brianna from the front office and Daryl from shipping while she waited for me to go. When I got up, I observed them conversing and listening to rap music. My wife would come to work on her day off and join them for lunch. But a few weeks ago, I received a devastating call from an old co-worker. Tyrell stated Daryl might have gotten to my wife. He claims he witnessed them flirting in private. He indicated it will happen an hour before Daryl's lunch. Worse, he stated Gabby would come visit him when he and Daryl worked overtime on Saturdays. After Tyrell left, he stated he wasn't going to say anything, but he saw something that compelled him to tell me. He said he heard Spanish music blaring at the shipping pier. He stated he looked in and saw my wife twerking for Daryl. He said they were just joking around before becoming sexual and aggressive. Gabby allegedly let him hold her neck and pull her blouse to see her butt. He stated they were just joking about it first, but he could tell they were serious when they stared at each other. Initially, I was blaming my wife, asking whether he was sure it was her. He retorted that he was confident it was her, citing Gabby's Cuban heritage, tattoos on her arms, and her signature ponytail. Tyrell stated he left to go home. I couldn't believe what he said. It's bad enough that my wife twerked on Daryl 8 or 9 months ago. Who knew what she was doing for Daryl now? I'm glad Tyrell told me, although I think he's a little late. I wish he had been a man and told me at the time, but Daryl got to my wife thanks to him. All to avoid snitching on Daryl. When I came home, I questioned Gabby about Daryl. She stated she talks to Daryl occasionally, but he isn't always around. I knew it was BS because I saw them. Thanks to Tyrell, I understand her game. She was leveraging Brianna's friendship to see Daryl. I started spying on my wife after talking to Tyrell and hearing Gabby lie about her and Daryl. I can't get into her phone since she uses it to chat with her mother and sister. Instead, I would overhear her late-night discussions, which upset me. She would converse on the back porch, and I would listen out our side door. I knew she was talking to Daryl once I heard her. She would say "Stop, you're insane," or "Yeah, we had fun at a certain bar in our suburb." She can't go over there, she said. I'm sure they're meant above his house, but I couldn't be sure from just one side. Then I inquired who she was talking to and she said her sister, Brianna. It was obvious from the giggling and muttering. I must have been blind before Tyrell phoned because I only saw red flags thereafter. Now she never leaves her phone, never speaks to me, and refuses to sleep with me since our kids are around. When I inquired when that stopped Gabby, she said simply leave her alone. She wasn't in the mood. This behavior before and after Tyrell's call does not look faithful. And I thought this was normal? I guess I made her miss out on seeing Daryl last Saturday. Gabby called me on the way home from work. She said she was going out again, so I had to cook. I believed she was trying to meet Daryl and lied, claiming I had errands to run before getting home. I told her to tell her sister to watch the kids, knowing she couldn't. I told Gabby I'm allowed to go out and do things too, and I might not be back until later. Whatever, Gabby muttered, hanging up. Later that night, she had an attitude with me and blew out on me when I said two things. I stated I didn't care if I destroyed her night. I told her I had to run errands and she could just hang out. Gabby said I didn't mention doing errands, and I said she didn't mention going out. When I questioned who she was with, she said to forget it. After getting out of the shower, I noticed she was on her phone on the porch. She seemed irritated, so I'm sure she meant me. But things got worse a few days ago. Gabby made dinner after I got home from work. She walked in and told me dinner was ready while I was browsing at new Jordans on my phone. When I entered the dining room, she was dressed and ready to go. A friend of mine asked if I could watch the kids while she went out with friends. When I inquired who she was dating, Gabby just responded her friends. I told her she couldn't just up and leave, and she urged me to stop. Then she stepped out with a swagger. I was enraged because I knew what was going on. She was still enraged over not seeing Daryl on Saturday and seemed sad about it. My wife didn't return until 2:30 a.m. I texted her all night and all she said was please stop messaging me. We started arguing when she eventually entered, while I was playing our son's PlayStation. I asked why she arrived so late. She just stated she was with her pals, and I didn't want to hear it. I was meant to be in bed, but I was waiting for her to return. She claims I never complained when she arrived late in the past, although I was always with her. She cursed me out and said I was essentially controlling her, which I denied. Our son came out to see what was going on and inquired what was wrong. Then Gabby stormed into the bedroom, saying she was done battling with me. My son begged to play the video game when he saw it on, and I said he had to go back to sleep. His game started after we agreed, and I wanted to keep arguing with Gabby. I wasn't going to allow her accuse me of being a controlling husband when she was the one who was late. I tried to remain cool, but my doubts overtook me. Coming in at 2 a.m. was rude, especially after her departure. I went into our room after our fight to argue over when she departed. I was about to dispute when I entered the room and saw what I saw. When I entered the room, my wife was undressing and appeared to be wearing a black string as underwear. My wife was astonished when I arrived, thinking I was still with our son. My wife just stood there, wearing a string, and I saw her for who she was. She gave me a look that indicated, if you ask me, we'll just argue. She dragged her pajamas from the bed and went to change in the bathroom. I couldn't believe what I saw and was saddened. I opted to sleep on the couch, because it would be strange otherwise. That messed up my brain. My wife never wore thongs or panties like that. It was her bare bottom and a black string. To be honest, Gabby has gorgeous panties, but she hasn't worn them in years. Her holiday bikinis are for Instagram, not for her. Even yet, the string she wore resembled something from World Star. I've noticed my wife as being suspicious and secretive. When I came on here, everyone said I should videotape her doing or saying incriminating things, so I did. I ordered a VAR gadget for her car. My acquaintance replied agreed without hesitation when I asked to utilize his address for delivery. I'll receive it when he gets it. I don't want her to notice the parcel and ask me what it is. I'm ready to blow this thing wide open, whatever it takes. Tyrell has confirmed many of my suspicions. I'll attempt to update if I stop being confrontational and act as normal as my emotions allow.